GM, and welcome to Soul Brothers, where it is our job to throw you into the Solana rabbit hole, show you around in our exciting ecosystem, and talk to some amazing people in the space. And today we are joined by, well, another podcast, I guess, but more than that, we're joined by Nikki. You're not just doing podcasting, you're doing a bunch of stuff. And I'm happy that we have two professional yappers here today to talk a little bit about Solami and beyond. Nikki, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. And I appreciate you coming up with this idea. I've been working on a lot of different things right now, but one of the most recent and most applicable was me being asked to join the Index podcast, which was, I'm super lucky to be added to that.
That's cool, man.
120K plus subscribers on YouTube. There's been like a huge community built up there already. And I've been following you guys closely. So when you're like, oh, let's do a collab, I believe I said yes immediately. It took me a little bit longer than it should have to schedule it, but here we are.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think crypto podcasts are still so niche that it's highly impressive to see shows that have so many subscribers. What is the success recipe here for getting 100K plus subscribers? Was the Index show just at the right time in the right space and did the right thing? And was it like just a lot of right things that came together? Because here's the thing, and you can comment on that to jump right in. Social awareness for crypto is right now super low. Like no one really gives a shit about what we're doing here. I feel like compared to 2-3 years ago, and that's just not a gut feel. That is actually based on there's a fucking index out there. It's called the Social Awareness Index for crypto, and it's measuring trends on YouTube. It's measuring trends on Google and so on. And right now we're in like a super cool phase compared to early days of Bitcoin, basically. So there's like very low social awareness and not a lot of keywords that are searched that are related to crypto, which makes it really tough to content in the space, because obviously if there's no people searching for the topics, then you're going to end up talking about other topics. So how do you get to 100K followers with a crypto show?
Yeah, so Alex, who founded ABK Labs, he started the Index podcast years ago. Him and his partners built up all the success there. I'm joining very late stage. It was good timing and then also consistent. I mean, he's always preaching consistent content, which can be very difficult. And it means you have to make content sometimes you don't feel like you have time to, and you don't feel like you have maybe people to talk to, but it just clips and episodes on a near weekly basis for years is his secret to building that up. There's something about being on a schedule where your viewers expect to or learn that you're posting content the same day every week for years, and the success comes. But getting that consistency right for years is no easy task.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, it's like we started this as a little hobby, right? Like I tapped my co-host Eno on the shoulder like 2 years ago, and I was like, hey bro, you want to do a podcast? Just for fun, because we're both like I needed someone else that likes to talk, and he was the first person that came to mind. I was like, okay, come on, let's just let's talk about Solana a little bit. We did the first show at Singapore, Breakpoint. You remember the Singapore 2 years ago? Did you go?
I wasn't there, but I know you're talking about.
Yeah, so that one, like, similar vibes, different vibes, but still not too far ago, 2 years ago now. And we did the first IRL podcast over there. And then it turned out to kind of become this whole company and brand now, which is like a fairly like serious thing. And it blends into a lot of other things that I do on Solana as well. So, and the same for Eno, right? So for us, it makes a lot of sense, but it is really hard to build a good audience, because you're feeling like you're doing so much work and getting nothing in return. And that's like, we have viewers, and I'm very grateful for the people that we do have to view. But if you are a content creator, if you create something, obviously you do it to appeal to a broader mass, and you want people to see it, right? Otherwise, you can also just go and live under a rock. So that is like very frustrating if you don't get the attention that the content, even the quality that you're putting out there, deserve. So big plan for us for 2026 is to get over that and not only like add success to this consistency, because doing consistent clips and videos with not a lot of views, there's something you need to change. Something that's what we believe as well. It's not just consistency. Would you agree with that? Like you also have to obviously kind of go with the time and maybe see if there's topics right now that are just more relevant in the crypto space, right? Talk about these things, change up the format you're doing, right? Because you can be very creative with content, right? There's other things to do it. So it's not, I guess Alex from the Index show, he also, that's why I said he wasn't only at the right time back then and did the hard work of consistency. He probably also picked the right topics and, had the right format for the time and like a lot of variables that were correct, right?
Oh, for sure. But I will say, like, the biggest net benefit, like, yes, you want like a large audience for sure. And like the Index is lucky not lucky that they put the work in to get that, but like the timing was good. But the biggest thing is like, it's a marketing opportunity for the guests that you have on. So you're able to give back to the ecosystem that way. Because anyone that you bring on for like a Soul Brothers podcast episode like this, where it's more like free flowing, or the Index podcast, where you're going in and more so not pitching your company, but it's really an opportunity to highlight what you're building and why to the audience. So that's a huge marketing opportunity and a way to give back that way. And then also it's the ultimate like BD networking task you can do as the host. Like your entire group of teams that you've ever interviewed is all now like part of your network and becomes part of like your BD pipeline for everything that you do. And that's like not a secret, right? It's when you bring in new people or bring in someone that you already have a relationship with, you either grow that relationship stronger or you build a brand new relationship. So the views, I would say, honestly, from my limited experience with the Index podcast, matter less than like the quality of people that you're networking with. And then also the amount of benefit that the guest is getting out of it.
Yeah, which I think the point I'm making is that all this is increased if you have a lot of views. So, like it's great to have a nice high quality video, but if you also get 100,000 views on YouTube on that, the guest that you just brought on is going to be extra happy, right? Like to get that kind of exposure. So that's always nice too.
I agree, but I would say don't dismiss the value of posting content, even if you don't get a ton of views. Like I know you and Eno exist because of Soul Brothers. I've seen clips posted from Soul Brothers, and that's how I found out about Sanctum and Solana ID. And that's how I ever got contacted with either of you. Like that was my first interaction with you guys, was I saw content and then I was aware that you guys existed. And then when I've seen you guys in person, it's like, oh yeah, like I know these guys.
That's a BD aspect of it. Totally right. Like for everyone that wants to build a good network inside of the niche, this is a very good chance and opportunity. It's not easy. Like you still have to, stick out, do great content, assemble a small team of people that can help you to achieve it. But once you've done that, the views actually don't matter. Like for the BD, it's great. And then there's the other goal, which is, I think this is a separate topic really, which is distribution, right? You want to get out there and you want to onboard new people to Solana, because that was kind of one of our naive visions when we started this. Like, okay, after half a year, we're going to be able to bring 1,000 new people per month to this ecosystem and try out all these amazing apps and everything. But that's a tough task, isn't it? Like onboarding people. It brings me to a good question, Nikki. I wanted to ask you for like the experience that you had so far in the ecosystem. I need to know first your background a little bit when it comes to Solana. Like how long you've been with the space. I've seen you very involved with a lot of projects. We can talk a little bit about a few of these. So I suspect you've been around a while. When did your Solana journey begin-ish?
Yeah, the Nikki Scans lore. I started back in August 2021. I was minting NFTs with the homies. It's the way a lot of us got into this space and just had so much fun. And I'm really a hobbyist at heart, so I can never just do something casually. I have to go 110%, which is, I think, borderline of mental illness that we all share. And
a bit autistic.
So basically I got really involved with DJ Ape Academy, the NFT project. Cool. This was, I had a very regular, real professional Web2 job, but just became obsessed with this NFT project and the community built around it. I was having so much fun. I basically kept asking how I could help. I started helping run their meetings. That was literally how it started. I'm like, hey, let me organize your meetings for you guys a little bit more, again, for fun, because I loved it. And that turned into a strategy role and a partnerships role, and then eventually being CEO there. After sort of the NFT bull run and it started to fade for a few years, I ended up consulting a bunch of ecosystem teams which, funny enough, like a lot of my ecosystem expertise comes from working with an NFT project, as crazy as that may sound, because I made so many relationships and saw, how to work with devs, how to speak the language of devs, how to work with creatives and speak their language, how to build out timelines, how to go from idea to final product, how to fail and then iterate onto the next idea, right? How to succeed and then not let the momentum fade away. So I got to experience all of that through DAA. Brought some of that expertise to some clients throughout the ecosystem, just continued to build my network further and further. Ended up working with Marinade Finance, which is like an OG Solana staking team, for a little over a year. Did that for like the past year. They started as a client and then ended up as a full-time thing.
Cool.
And then now I've moved into, Index Podcast, where I'm, a host there. And then also, as you may have seen a bit, I started Layer 33 to support the, coalition of independent validators that have been suffering over the last year or so.
Yeah, lots of exciting topics, lots of potential areas we can dive into. One broader question before we do it, though. Now you've seen a lot of changing of the suit when it comes to Solana. Like, it started as this thing in 21 that you saw back then, and I think it went through a whole wardrobe change until today. What Solana is. So you can also disagree to that, by the way. Maybe we're still the same in its core. But now going forward, obviously we're still in January, and it's still a new beginning. A little bit always feels like a new beginning, even though nothing changes. But we're in a new year. Where is this going? What have you had probably had a lot of conversations around this as well, as a host and as someone that is talking to a lot of companies on Solana. What's your gut telling you now after hearing all these things, doing all these conversations for 26 and where Solana is moving? Do you have any few big thesis items that you can put out there when it comes to Solana ecosystem for yourself? Can be anything.
I think that we're going to continue. I know it feels like it's weird because like price is good. The like institutional, the institutions being onboarded, the new companies being built, the successful raises happening. Everything should feel super positive, but like for some reason it doesn't, which is strange. And maybe maybe we've all been spoiled a little bit. And but all that to say, like, my perception for 2026 is like I'm still incredibly bullish. I think our job is right now just to, like you said, bring in as many new people to the ecosystem as possible. Let successful teams sort of do the onboarding going forward. Like as products are getting built, they'll onboard users, which then onboards users to Solana in general. We're sort of past the phase where it's like you need to, there's like the believe in something, right? It's like be a part of something before it's really ready for that. We're sort of, now that we have so much, now that we have so much institutional adoption, we're sort of past that point. So now it's just like build products people want and need. And then that'll be the Solana base, right? Like Solana is quickly become, instead of it being like this tight knit niche community, now it's much more simple. It's like Solana is the fastest and most efficient way to go from idea to, to capital raise, to revenue, to distribution in the world, right? It's not like you have to be a Solana maxi. If you're just a success maxi, then Solana is where you should be building. And again, it doesn't have to be physically on Solana. It's like your product that you build should just be adjacent to, utilize Solana technology, and then also obviously the community and money here as well.
Yeah, so that's the question that I'm asking myself a little bit these days. Is like, where are we going as an ecosystem, purely Solana, right? I don't even want to zoom out one step further into the whole crypto ecosystem. I want to stay on, I want to solve brothers, right? I'm going to talk about Salami here. Which part of the of the economy are we now actually tackling with this? Because there's things happening now. We had the Genius Act last year that brought a little bit more institutional adoption in, and a little bit more, and we're still, working on it, but it's already out there. And it gave a little bit more clarity, and that's the next keyword. We have the Clarity Act, right, coming up probably tomorrow or next week. There's like right now, basically, there's the Senate is talking about the Clarity Act, and again, this will bring more institutions probably closer to the ecosystem, because they will feel like, okay, these stable coins are actually, they're the real thing now. We can trust them. They have the voucher, the stamp on them. So this again brings more institutions in it, and Solana's getting hyper financialized, right? Which makes sense if it was supposed to be the Nasdaq of the future, right? The sci-fi version of the Nasdaq, as Anatoly likes to put it. It makes sense if we're becoming that, right? There has been a time where it felt a little bit different. 1-2 years ago, there was like NFTs going on. There was a lot of experimentation where we ask ourselves the question of, okay, what is this tech actually for, right? What would you say is this tech actually for? Like, are we just basically just replacing the financial system, the legacy rails below, the banks and institutions and insurers and everything there, and we're just gonna settle everything, and because that checks out, right? It makes sense. But then what about all the super innovative, a little bit more degen instruments and plays that we have on Solana? Was that all just to build the infrastructure needed for this huge thing, the Nasdaq financialization, tokenization, RWA space, right? And now we're just gonna get all rid of that, right? We're just gonna do this one thing that we're established to do, or are we just gonna do global value transfer for all kinds of shit? And it's not gonna be only just tokenization. There's also other use cases that can be built on Solana. How does this shift as what actually is happening on Solana, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it's all of the above. Like, it'll all, like, all of the early stage, like, degenerate apps, and like build broken things and then sort of fix it as you go. Like all of that will likely still remain, but more of the money will be in like the traditional markets, right? Like think RWAs, and think basically replacing global money transfer with objectively better, instantaneous, free to use system, right? The idea that all of these founders no longer have to deal with like abusive practices, right? With some $1 billion conglomerate middleman taking a percentage of all the money on every transaction they ever make, and then having to, adhere to the demands of like traditional VCs so they can build their company. Like with Solana, like you have all of that power at your fingertips. Like you can get in front of the public who can decide whether what you're building is worth funding or not instantaneously. And then you can get that money instantaneously without paying ridiculous fees or, or having it all be like way too public. You know what I mean? Like you just get your funds and can start working and building at super speed. Right. So all that's happening. That's where most of the money and attention is going to go. It's going to continue to become more and more institutionalized. But remember that Solana is a tool for institutions and global finance, right? Like it doesn't mean that we're giving up control of like our community, right? Like we still have our base here. It's just now we're sort of sharing our favorite thing, the financial system we've all like built our lives around with, the global powers that be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And one thing you said resonates a lot with me as well, which is kind of the ease of use for founders as well for this ecosystem, the go-to-market strategies that we do have on Solana that you don't have anywhere else, where you can build incentive systems and referral systems and everything on chain that kind of helps you to bootstrap growth right at the beginning. You can distribute ownership to your community. You can tap into existing communities that are very niche already, very early adopter that will use your product. Example, Seeker, right? Seeker phone. Great, like to early stress test your new mobile app. And you can even come from that stage. This is the fucking around finding out stage. You can come from there with your idea to IPO, basically, all on Solana still. Obviously, it's IPO for us here, but you can at least bring your financial asset out there to the world and make it tradable and raise millions of dollars through that whole, route without talking to any investment bank, right? So that's beautiful. But you also said that we're escaping some of the abusive practices in the outside world. But we're also replacing them with a few abusive practices in the Solana world because there's a few things that don't work very well. It's still not work really well yet, and especially the value capture on tokens, right? And I know you have opinions on this, and we all have opinions on this. And I give you the quick TLDR of how I see this whole thing evolve and where we are today, and you give me your take on value capture and tokens on Solana. We can I want to spend a few minutes and talk about that topic because it is kind of top of mind right now for a lot of people. And we came from this era of ICOs on Ethereum, right, where this was brand new. This was like, okay, these crypto tokens are wild and you can make so much money there, right? It was kind of the golden days. So that happened. Obviously, that turned into a huge shit show, and a lot of teams just cashed out big, went to some island, and were never seen again because it was just too big and too early and with no structure, right? So that there was ICOs, but the idea was already there, right? You raise a shit ton of money with your token with based on a huge vision, just a white paper, right? Obviously now it's much better on Solana. We have like great systems in place that, like Colosseum and so on, that bring you from idea, from zero, handheld to a stage where you're like, okay, I actually have a product here. I have some users, I have some traction. I don't have, no one wants white papers anymore, by the way. Have you recognized that? No one even talks about white papers. Like when I started my company, we still had to write a white paper because people just ask us, do you have the link to your white paper? And I was
all that work to then launch a token and then have people treat it like a shit coin.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so weird. So
Wild West.
It's kind of an evolution. We came from there. The founders realized we don't need these white papers. People also realized we don't really. So that kind of passed. But then on Solana, we did a lot of experimentation with tokens. We had obviously NFTs, but then we also had utility tokens and DeFi tokens. They were kind of new at some point, by the way, if you guys forgot. But utility tokens were new, and they were like, okay, you need this financial instrument. That's not just a financial instrument. It's also utility. It brings a use case to your product. You can use it as loyalty points. You can use it to bootstrap your community, slap a utility on top of that. Then we realized, okay, utilities are actually silly because most of the times you're just forcing something onto something that doesn't want it. So we're like, okay, maybe you should just realize that that's not it, and it won't work anyways. It won't create the demand you need. So let's go back to financial products. Let's make it just a financial product, not a utility token. In between all that, by the way, we had meme coins, but that's a different story. And then we came to where we are now, kind of, which is, okay, last year we tried to, okay, how do we get the value of the underlying business, which is doing really well now? How do we get into the token? People started to be creative, right? We started to buybacks, we started to burns, we started to distribute kind of dividends somehow by staking, getting rewards, which, like there are some companies that you also know very well that are doing this really well. And now we're here. Now we're in the mid-hour age where everyone talks about ownership coins. And we're not only trying to do buybacks and dividends and so on, because some people realize that maybe some companies are not really best suited for that yet. So how about we just get the equity closer to the token? And now we're just basically tokenizing the equity, I guess, to an extent, like not technically, but. And now we're here. So what do you say of all of this? Like, I
literally had this conversation earlier, not recorded, with my friend Ash, who is building his project on crypto as well. Cool. So he has a lot of Ash has a lot of traditional financial background, and I got his take on it because this is something that I've been struggling with. I've never launched anything of significance on Solana involving a token. But just watching what's been happening with MetaDAO, and I'm a big fan of the Ranger Finance team, and sort of watching what's been going on there. It's been very interesting, and it's sort of proving the thesis that we all have right now is that these token launches, whether they're tied to equity or not, are not even close to doing a good enough job at reflecting company value, right? So traditional securities and stocks and traditional real world assets are a 10,000x better as it currently stands at representing the actual value of the underlying asset, whether it's a business, equity, or an RWA, right? So how do we get there? Right now, I think we're trying to get a little bit too cute with it. Like we're trying to find whether it's, it's buybacks or letting the community control the funds or whatnot. We're sort of overthinking it. The answer is looking like it's just we need to, and this might just take time. We need to find standard practices for evaluating, which is sort of what exists in standard markets now. It's why, like, again, based on my conversation today, it's sort of why like traditional stocks don't free fall, because first of all, there's endless liquidity. And no matter what happens, there are very sane, calculated people or bots that are evaluating a company very similar. Even if some are bearish and some are bullish, no matter what happens, price will fall 10% at absolute most, no matter what the black swan event is, right? And of course, this is like there are outliers, but mostly not, because the bears and the bulls in traditional markets, their price, because they're using a standard methodology of evaluating, is never that far off, right? It's going to be 10, 15% one way or the other. Where the way tokens currently work on Solana there's no standard system, and that creates the free fall, right? Because there's no standard system that's saying, oh, such and such, ICO or MetaDAO token at minimum is worth this much. So as soon as it free falls 5 to 10%, there's unlimited buyers that are saying, no. Standard procedure, this is the bottom price. So when you don't have that, the bottom is zero, right? Which is what we're seeing now, right? We're seeing companies that are like proven builders that have been successful here for years, launch something that just inherently should have a value on it, but ends up not. Like the bottom is zero. And we need to fix that with standardization practices, which again might just take time.
That's an interesting point. I think me trying to understand why is that the case, by the way. I think one of the reasons why we have this is this kind of a new primitive that we have here. No one thought that far. That's probably one of the stupid answers or simple answers. But then also the whole point about launching tokens on Solana is also to be able to do that so seamlessly and so with such a lightweight process that you can't replicate that in the traditional industry. Because, for example, obviously a stock listing is really difficult, right? You can't do that as a startup. So when I created my startup and we did a, like super early token launch, you can go public at that stage as a startup. You're a private company. Normally in the real world, you're collecting a little bit of private capital and you're getting valued at the last round, right? But that's it. There's no public asset. There's no liquid asset. There's no price finding going on for at least a year, because you just did let's say you just closed your seed round, right, at 50 mil valuation, and then the company is just doing its thing, right? There's no one is evaluating your company. It's a private company, and then only if you, and only like for a small percentage of companies make it that far, only if you then IPO and you bring the liquid asset out, the market is going to price your company based on the performance you have. But by then you have a performance, so you can do discounted cash flow analysis and you can do price to earnings, and you have these standard models because there's things to analyze. Here, a lot of times these Range is a good example. Like it's difficult to slap a fair value on the company if it's so early stage, right? Like to find an actual price. So normally they would raise money now at 20 mil valuation from some VCs or founders or angels, whatever, and then there would be the valuation, right? And then they're just built, and then the next time they raise, they can say, okay, since the last raise 1 year ago, we did like that and that and that in revenue, and these are the metrics, so we're at a much better stance right now, and that is why our valuation now has tripled, and here's the revenue projections that we have by then, right? So that now they have it's a very different setup. So this is missing here a little bit. So I'm asking myself, how can we, like, either we can't launch these tokens so early because they are just meme coins at that point. Then meme meaning, okay, I believe in something, right, but I don't have something. Then you can launch it early, right? Or yeah, we just have to launch them when we can do cash flow analysis and we have something to show basically for the business, and we can, and the market is able, based on data, to actually price it in. Would you agree? Like, am I on the right track, or you disagree with that?
Well, I mean, it's, first of all, we don't know. If either of us knew the answer, we would probably be getting very cushy offers for jobs, right? Like if we could solve, this is the ultimate thing to solve for. So we're purely speculating.
100%.
I don't think we need to change what we're doing in the way of like, I think you should be able to launch a token early stages to get seed funding. I don't see any issue with that.
Yeah.
But what needs to happen is the Solana community specifically needs to come up with a way to do our best to evaluate these companies right at like ICO, especially if it's like very early stage first initial raise, because that's certainly not impossible, right? Like there are so many algorithms and tools, and it's overused, but like, AI powered, right? That we can assign fair valuations to companies. And then everyone has to put their money, and then there needs to be backing that puts their money where their mouth is. It's like, okay, we're using this algorithm based on the status of the team launching this, based on the backers that they have, right? Because there's always going to be some sort of large VCs behind them either way, based on the amount of money that they raised, based on the potential that this company has, right? There's something to that. And as long as we can standardize that and then have enough liquidity to then maintain whatever that standardized price is. And again, I'm not saying we need to be like, the traditional market where, no matter what happens, I mean, the CEO can be assassinated and you'll slip 5%. You know what I mean? Like that's like, we don't need to get to that point. That's like really stable markets, but like getting to a point where like the standard price is within, let's call it 30%. You know what I mean? Where like, no matter what happens, unless a company is totally going under, no matter what black swan event happens one way or what massive accelerator positive event happens, it's only swinging 30% one way or another. Even that would show massive maturity and make all this way more sustainable, because we're losing really good teams, really, really good talented teams and builders to their tokens basically getting sent to zero when the company should obviously not be worth zero.
Do you see any short-term, mid-term relief for these kind of setups, by the way? Did you sense any help for these situations? What should these people do?
If like your token is already went to zero?
I mean, not zero, right? But let's say it went down, right, from all-time highs like 90%, and it's trading fairly low. And then
I don't know. Yeah, it's so hard for buyers to emotionally recover from something being down 90%. We don't see it. It's more rare that a team, and this is not me being bearish any team specifically. I literally have no team in mind at all as I'm saying this. It's just general sentiment. I don't know if I can think of a lot of examples where like a team launched at a high valuation, went down, 90 to 99%, and then eventually came back, which is totally not fair because the initial valuation isn't their fault, right? It's what the public valued it at. It's not their fault. It's not any of these companies' fault if it was valued too high in the beginning, but it's just such a mental hurdle to come back from. So we need to fix this like ASAP. So, some more, net new founders can come here and build and get access to capital, users, and revenue at Solana speed.
That is a high priority item for 2026 then, to kind of fix the ownership model or the valuation model and the value accrue model that we have on our beautiful tokens on Solana, because it's both alike, right? It's existing successful projects like the Jupiters of Solana that suffer from this effect, right? It's them, like their tokens also have issues capturing value, and with them you actually can do a very good analysis of their fair value because they have a lot of business metrics. You can do projections, all that thing. Like it's a proper company.
The teams like that, it confuses me. That's where like like Solana holders, like truly, it does blow my mind a little bit. Like there's a certain size and timeline, and like, yeah, there should be real data analysis should happen where these ecosystem tokens should trade much more like traditional markets, but they just don't. I mean, legitimately, like, and again, I'm not trying to shill Jito too much, but like, I don't know, or like Jito or like Jupiter, like tokens like that. I don't know what their prices are today relative to what they've been in the past, but without looking, they're probably really undervalued, right? Compared to like traditional companies.
Or they were very overvalued before.
Yeah, that's true too.
That is all, and now they're more closer to their fair, because I looked at here's one thing, and give me your take on that. I looked at Solana and Ethereum, for example, as a company, and I did some basically just the price to sales. I wanted to find the PS ratio, right? Like, so is it like fairly priced? So that I was like, okay, what is the blockchain selling, right? As a company. And then we're basically huge databases selling block space, right? So the cost you have to get that block space, that's the revenue for the blockchain, for Solana in that case. So that's like the mix from tips and MEV and transaction fees. So you bake that as revenue in, right? And you can project that over time, how this develops and where it sets right now. And then you can look at the market cap, obviously, of the whole thing. And the price to sales ratio of a good company in traditional markets is usually maximum double digit, right? Maybe single digit, right? That's a good ratio. So then it means that, okay, they don't make the amount of sales that justifies 1-to-1 the price the stock has, but it's like a multiple of 10x or 20x. It's a growth company, right? So price to sales is a step before price to earnings for people, they're not familiar with it. Earnings already have the more of the cost subtracted from the revenue the company makes. But that means that crypto companies should be also in that range somewhere. But Solana, for example, as a company, has a price to sales ratio of like 300x or something right now. So the amount of value Solana is actually creating by revenues, right, for itself, for the company, for Solana. When I say company, I mean the blockchain. There's no company, right? Then that revenue compared to the valuation where we're sitting at is like not, we need to make a lot more revenue. Like only in times where there's like 1 or 2 months during the meme coin craziness where the price to sales was probably adequate, right? But that can't be, right? We can't find an adequate price to sales ratio once every 3 years because of some weird cycle, right? No, it needs to be kind of consistent trajectory. Like you need to be able to predict it over time and see, okay, it goes slowly up instead of having like super low, then a huge outlier, then low, right? That is currently the status quo, by the way. So I think that is the question. So either we need to really aggressively ramp up our revenue, which, by the way, what I think is going to happen. So we just need to make a lot more value from this database, which is still fairly new, and there's a shitload of liquidity coming in very soon and so on. And then I think we're going to come closer to that. Or we need to lower the valuation, which might have happened to projects like, Jupiter and so on, that experienced something similar, where their stats were objectively just not really in par with everything. Do you think Solana is valued fair now? At like, by the way, we're pumping, so at around $140, $250.
What are we at right now?
Right now we're at 145.
Why do you think this week is so green?
This week was mainly green because of, political things. I think Trump is good for the economy, essentially. Like that's what he's trying to do. The inflation data came in yesterday better than expected, while labor markets need work. So those are two core things right now that I think the market didn't price in the inflation data that is actually better than expected. So the core inflation was like 0.1 lower than people thought it was. That means we can technically, I guess, cut rates a bit further. So there's like a few macroeconomical tailwinds that the industry is getting, but also we've been on an up since beginning of January. So I think we're just still in this trend line right now. But from what I'm seeing is we're not over the hill yet, by the way, when it comes to prices. At Soul Brothers, we also do a little bit of technical analysis and shit here and there. So we pretend to know where prices go. I'm really good at that. And I'm pretending right now to know that we're probably not going to go directly up right now. I think it's more of a, because for that, it's too uncertain. There's too much uncertainty. Like Trump, like putting our Fed chairman in jail. By the way, that's not going to happen. I'm just exaggerating here.
Yeah.
But this is the first in history that this guy, like that the Fed chair is getting subpoenaed. That things like this are not really good for markets, I guess. Sure, that people could say, yeah, okay, maybe we get more rate cuts now. I don't think so, because now it's personal for Powell. Now he's like, fuck that. I'm not going to cut rates, especially right now, to kind of make a statement. Plus, it adds uncertainty. So I think 26 is going to be a good year, but there's too much uncertainty right now for us to go straight up. So again, I don't know what your opinion is on the fair price of Solana, but I think right now we're definitely beaten down a little bit by the markets and everything. So there's going to be a liquidity coming in a lot into the global markets, but also into crypto, and I think that will propel us higher. It might happen this year, but not in the next 2-3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. What do I think of the price right now? It's so tough because like I don't know. I'm obviously like I'm a permabull on Solana, and I guess maybe I've been here long enough where like these swings don't bother me as much. I think like these mid hundreds pricing seems pretty fair. Like I don't, and I know like everyone seemed,
It's a good word for it. Fair.
Yeah, it seems pretty fair. And I know we've gotten like a ton of institutional adoption, but like I would think that like our market cap is still pretty high. Like, so like I think like the current Solana market cap tied to all the institutional adoption that's happened, and then maybe held back a little bit by the fatigue of like this, of like the crypto community. Cause obviously like Solana does not control all prices of crypto, right? It's the overarching market. And then, Bitcoin is still daddy, right? At the end of the day, Bitcoin leads everything. I think there's some crypto fatigue. And, when we get these emotions of like really high prices, we're all so ungrateful. And this isn't like a shot at anyone. It's very natural human psychology. Like you see these really high prices and then it's like, well, price still is good and price is fair, but it's not as high as it once was. So I'm going to build less, communicate less, and be like a sourpuss until it's as high as it was before. And it's just like such a shitty attitude. And I don't know if that attitude is the same in like traditional markets. I would assume it's not, because it's just more mature markets. But yeah, like Bitcoin over 90K, like Solana over 100 and under 140, ETH over $3,000. Those are fantastic prices. They're fantastic market caps, and I think it properly reflects crypto sentiment, which is now being held, like boosted up in a good way by the amount of institutional adoption we've gotten. So yeah, I'm very positive about it. I wish everyone else was too. Like the fact that there's been so much like bearishness on the timeline and like a lot of negativity and people communicating less, and we still have like held these prices. Like I feel like we should be thankful for that. But no.
100%. And it's at the end of the day, it's like we're especially on Solana, there's in my opinion, there's no bear markets, because we don't feel them that way, because everyone is just so fucking hyped up still. Not about prices, you're absolutely right, no one is hyped up about prices when Solana is at $100, right? But about everything else, like everyone is still like literally, like we went down and down last month in December, and like, but then there was breakpoint, there was like 50 announcements, then Solana kept posting over holidays and everything was bullish. And I'm looking at these things now, like, yeah, no one gives a shit about the prices right now. Everyone is just looking at the potential of the businesses and the institutions, everything we're bringing in here. Like ETFs launch left and right. JP Morgan talks about Solana at CNBC, and we're still trading at $130. It's like, I think the good thing is it feels like we're never really in a bear market. If you are in the builder circle, in the more in the more deeper involved, because everyone is just like keep doing his thing. But what you see, unfortunately, is that just, I mean, unfortunate, it's probably fortunate that the players that don't make it because they didn't, their businesses are not, very resilient, they get washed out in these phases, obviously. So you do see project sunsetting here and there, and you do see people, losing some of their wealth because they made some bad decisions in these down phases. But that's part of the survival of the fittest, I guess. The ones that prepare for war, they survive it, and the others, they get knocked out. So that happens here and there. But if you stay around, right, then it can be very beneficial and lucrative, because I think it's going to be a very good year.
Yes, for sure. I guess like where I still end up being surprised is when I see like companies failing or individuals failing because price went to $130. I'm like, that still seems like a high price. That's where I get confused. I'm like, that still seems like a high price to me. I watched like the way everyone's business operates change in real time, going from 250 to like 120, 130. Like I could have seen that at like, if Solana went to like 40, $50, like that would have made sense to me. The teams having to like change the way they were acting. But I was surprised how much sentiment changed and how much businesses had to change their spending based on Solana going to prices that I view as still very high. So I was caught off guard by that.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, as a founder myself, it's if you're a founder on Solana, chances are high, not saying, that's the more general take, chances are high that you do have exposure somehow to the asset and everything. And you're very bullish on the underlying asset. You're very biased as well. Like you're in this little echo chamber. So a lot of these teams, they quickly become too delusional and have too much of the treasury and funds that shouldn't be probably in liquid assets, or into liquid, yes, but not in risk assets. I have them in Solana or something, right? And then as soon as prices go down, they're like, okay, damn, this is actually cutting my runway shorter than expected. And that inflects your decisions as a business.
Sure. No, that makes sense. It does. Because obviously, like, I would do the same thing, and I have done the same thing, right? Like keeping a lot of like a treasury in Solana. But again, it's like, were all these companies operating as though like Solana was never going to go under $250 again?
Fair. Like I think it's a bit of a mismatch here and there.
I'm sorry. I'm really not trying to talk down to anyone at all, because like I have made all the mistakes that you've all made. Like I've made as well. I'm just saying, like, from observing and from being here a longer time and having made my own mistakes and watched, I was surprised to see that when I saw it happening, when I saw some layoffs happening in Solana and I saw some businesses going under. I was like, the price didn't fall that much. So like that's where I was caught off guard.
Yeah. The good thing is, in these times, usually it smells like opportunity. So there's opportunity, like either your competitors get washed out, or the tokens that you always wanted to buy are cheap now. Like there's just opportunity. When there's blood in the streets, there's usually opportunity as well. So I think right now what counts is just don't get fully taken out, whatever you do with your life on Solana. If you're a founder, if you're a holder,
always just survive.
Just survive. Survive it, and then try to come back stronger as you were there before. Nikki, where can people find yourself? Where can people find the podcast? Is there anything else you'd like to share with viewers for today? And then they can reach out maybe or follow, ask questions.
Yeah, I love that this was just like a general conversation about like the important Solana ecosystem stuff. I was really in the mood for having like a podcast episode like this. I've done a lot of like talking about layer 33 specifically, talking about validators specifically. It was nice to just like talk about like the overall what's going on, what the hot topics are. So I appreciate you letting us have that conversation. You can follow me directly at Nikki Scans on X to see all that I'm up to. I'm up to too many things. You can follow at the Index Podcast on X. You can also follow at the Index Podcast on YouTube. Ton of YouTube subscribers. It's so cool to be a part of it. I've got an episode coming out with Coinbase coming up. It's already recorded, just getting ready to post. That was my first episode that I ever got to record. And then my second episode was with the Pi Finance team, which they're so cool and love what they're doing around this Solana staking space, which is such a boring space sometimes, but it's the space that I've chosen to sort of put my passion and love behind because it matters so deeply to everything that we do. You can also follow Layer 33. You can find the link to that. You can find the link to that X account right within my own profile. It's like @_30, something like that. Like there's underscores in it. So you can just look up Layer 33 and it'll come up, or just go right to my profile for a direct link to it. The mission behind Layer 33, just to give like the very short pitch on it, is we've lost like 1,000 validators in the last year as the cost to running a validator has gone up and up, and the amount of revenue from running a validator has gone down quite a bit. So we've lost a lot of these independent teams that have, upwards of hundreds of thousands of SOL on their validator, which helps keep the blockchain decentralized. So they've had to close shop. And what this is doing is every time someone closes shop at the independent level, that Solana funnels up to your, we'll say Figment, Coinbase, Kraken, Binance. None of these teams I have any issues or quorums with. It's just we do not want the super minority to be the only one that holds stake weight. We need to have at least, there's like about 700 to 800-ish validators right now. We want to make sure that we never drop below like 200 or 300, which is where we're trending towards now. Because we want to maintain this decentralization. We want to make sure, it's why it's called Layer 33. We want to make sure that at least 33% of all stake weight is held by independent validators, which are on top of committing to this decentralization. They are also our validator community layer, right? When you see updates and tests happening with things like, Fire Dancer and Double Zero and Franken Dancer, when that came out, and trying out like Jito Bam, like the true testers and builders are these independent validators. And they're the original Solana community. So it's important that we all help give them a voice, because they've been a little bit voiceless for a while now.
Fair. Yeah, I love the mission. As the independent validator ourselves, we feel it. So it is, it's tough times, and I think it's good to have people out there that look out for you if you're one of the smaller fishes here in the ecosystem. At the end of the day, like, the decentralization will definitely gonna suffer from it. I'm not a maxi, like, it doesn't need to be, we don't need 5,000 validators right now. But there's like a solid middle ground, I think. What do you say? Like 200, 300 would be very low. So very great mission, and I consciously didn't want to tap into it too deep, because I think it deserves a separate conversation with fresh minds, which we should keep in the backlog for a different day, to talk about staking, infra, and Layer 33 more in depth. So yeah, if you all want to see that, then make sure to check out the Index podcast as well on YouTube, and add Nikki's Guns on Twitter, where you will find Layer 33 as well linked in your bio, Nikki, right? Yeah, so you got it there as well. Cool. So everyone, thanks for tuning in. We're doing these always live, so if you also want to get the content first, then best place to get that is either YouTube @SolBrothersPod or Twitter @SolBrothersPod, where we're live streaming these. And if not, then you'll find the clips on our channel. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate the support, and we'll see you at the next one. Nikki, it was fun. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Simon.
Awesome. So that's a cut. We can also close the stream. Thanks, guys, for joining. If people are watching right now, wherever you are, good morning, good night, or whatever it is. But yeah, thanks for joining the live stream as well. And we're gonna close that down as well. And we'll see you guys in the trenches. Bye, live streamers.